This is the Paycheck to Daycheck Reselling Podcast.
I'm Liz.
And I'm Ashley.
Together, we have been making money online collectively for over 10 years.
Our mission is to help you start, learn, and grow a reselling business and to inspire you to turn your paycheck into a daycheck.
The world is changing, and we want to help you change with it. All right, guys, so welcome to another episode of Paycheck to Daycheck. This episode, number 3, is going to be about how to start reselling, because I know that there's a lot of information out there. A lot of people wonder, how do I start? Where do I start? So in this episode, we're just going to briefly talk about, a little checklist of what we think is best for reselling. So you want to go ahead and start?
Okay, so right off the bat, the very first thing that we suggest that you do is to pick a platform and open a selling account on that platform, whether that be eBay, Poshmark, Amazon, Mercari, whatever the platform is that you want to try your hand at. So if you plan on selling more than $600 on that platform in 2022 anyways, you're going to need to open a business bank account as well. We really strongly recommend that you do this to keep your funds separate, because when it comes to time to do taxes at the end of the year, it will be much easier if you have everything streamlined and just coming out of and into one business bank account for your reselling.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, because that was one of the mistakes that Casey and I made when we first started reselling. We had our personal with the business, and at the end of the year when it came tax time, we were so used to having a W-2 job. You get one W-2, you give it to your tax person, you could do your own, and that's it. But with reselling, there's so many things that you need to account for. You need to make sure that you're keeping track of inventory, your cost of goods, your expenses, writing down your mileage, everything like that. So it really helps if you do separate them off the bat. That was one of the biggest mistakes that we made. $600, it adds up quick, and you just want to make sure that you're prepared for tax time. So making sure that you have a separate account, that's really beneficial.
Absolutely. And there really is no downside to having a separate business bank account. It will only help you in the future if you open one. So we highly recommend that.
All right. So the next thing that we would recommend that you do is create a budget for how much you are going to spend per month on inventory, supplies, other expenses. It's very important that you're doing this because you need to make sure that you're not stretching yourself thin. I know a lot of people that end up reselling, and it's, it can be addicting. You get excited when you make a sale and you want to go out and buy more inventory. But if you are spending all your money, then you're not going to have any funds to reinvest or buy more product until your items sell. So it's really good to have that budget off the bat. Maybe you are still working a W-2 and you're looking just to make money on the side. You maybe only have a couple $100 that you can set aside for reselling, but it's really thinking about that number. So then that way you have a budget every month of what you can spend for reselling.
Definitely. You don't want to get yourself in trouble with overspending or running out of cash. If you have inventory that isn't selling as fast as you thought it might, the number one reason why small businesses fail is because of cash flow issues. Hugely important. The next thing that we recommend is to establish an accounting system and a bookkeeping system. This is, again, another one of those things that no one really wants to do, like getting your oil changed when you need to. But it's one of those things that is going to severely help your business now and in the future. Staying organized is just absolutely paramount to having a successful reselling business.
For eBay, we use Easy Auction Tracker. But now My Reseller Genie just came out, and that's like a whole bookkeeping, inventory system, everything. And they're constantly making improvements. We'll actually link that in the show description if anyone's really interested. But definitely starting out, I know GoDaddy, they had a bookkeeping, but now that one's going away. Other people use QuickBooks, but definitely starting out right, because you don't want to 6 months down the road not have anything tracked, because then you're going to be creating a lot more work for yourself. Make sure you're keeping your receipts, you're tracking everything. And by having the bookkeeping, that's just really important. And it's just good business habits to start off right away. Another thing to do when you are first starting to resell is decide which platform you want to sell on. Learn that platform before adding any other ones. There's so many options you can do. Local, Facebook Marketplace, OfferUp, you could do eBay, Mercari, Poshmark, Amazon. Goat, StockX. I mean, there's so many reselling platforms out there, but one of the hardest things is learning how that platform works because they are all so different. So another thing you could also think about is what are you going to sell? So if you want to sell wholesale items or private label items, then Amazon's going to be the way to go. And if you want to do maybe thrifted items, then maybe eBay, or if you're going to do a lot of clothing and women's clothing, maybe Poshmark would be a better decision. But whatever you are going to sell, choose one platform, learn it, master it, make sure you understand how it works. Shipping is really difficult at first, figuring out the cheapest ways to ship. But if you are listing on a platform and you don't truly understand it, that's really going to cut into your margins. I mean, you might mess up and not know that there's cheaper shipping options, and that will save you money. Maybe you don't understand all the fees, like just really diving deep. And a lot of these platforms have tutorials. I know eBay does, where you can actually watch all the videos that they have in like their seller university, and really just taking the time to understand how the platform works and if it's the one that you're going to enjoy selling on or not.
That can definitely work towards your advantage as well. If you have a buyer that maybe doesn't know all of the rules or the fees or the shipping of that platform, being able to help them along if they're interested in one of your items, I've had that happen a few times and they were so grateful, and they've become return customers. So learning the fees of the platform, I feel, is one of the most important things. You don't want to source items and think like, oh, I bought this for, $5. I can sell it for $15. And then you find out there's a 20% fee when you sell it as well. And it's like, well, now after all this work that I've put in, I'm really not making that much profit. If you're flipping something like that on Amazon and you're able to get 100 of those things, like that's a pretty good flip. But on a platform that takes, 20 or maybe even 30% of your sale, that might not be what you're looking for. So definitely learning the rules and the fees are important. So the next thing that we have on our list here is to make a list of places that you'll source items from, or just to start selling items that you find around your house. That's how I started. I had a couple Lily Pulitzer dresses. I mentioned, I think in the first episode, that I purchased on final sale, and I'm not really the dress wearing kind of gal. So I'm not really sure why I purchased them in the first place, but I needed to get them out of my closet. I kind of needed the money at the time and I couldn't take them back. I remember that I had signed up for Poshmark a couple of years before that. So I took some pictures, I threw them up there, and they ended up selling for more than I paid for them. And that is what hooked me to this whole reselling thing. But, after that, I found more things in my closet. I'm like, all right, let's do this. Let's go through everything. I went through my stuff. I went through my sister's stuff. I went through my mother's stuff, trying to find anything that I could that they weren't using. Maybe things that they were using, they didn't realize I took, trying to sell those things just to build up my sales a little bit and get familiar with the platform. Before I went out, at the time, I didn't have a lot of disposable income to go to the thrift store and make purchases. So I was really trying to, make things stretch as much as I could. So selling the things from my own closet, other people's closets. I found a bag of clothing that someone was selling on Facebook Marketplace. I bought that for like $10. It was a huge garbage bag full of mostly garbage, but that also helped me get my feet wet and taking the pictures, figuring out my style and how Poshmark worked. It gets better and better. So I built up a little bit of income, and then, I was able to go out to the thrift stores. And the first time I went there, I spent $20 on a huge cart full of things. I think it was like half price day or dollar day or something of that nature. The more you do it, the more easier it will get.
Yeah, I want to add to that too. So obviously make a list of where you're going to source items. If you're interested in retail arbitrage, maybe you'll find, some of the lower price stores in your area, obviously Ross, Marshalls, Burlington, but like looking on a map, you don't want to be driving too far out of your way to go sourcing, because then the fuel, especially nowadays, that's going to cut into your margins. But really looking to see what is available in your area. And that might even determine what items you're going to start buying. Maybe you are like in where I am, Arizona, there's a Ross on every corner, there's Marshalls everywhere, Burlington. So maybe that would be an option, but really kind of having a plan. I know Casey and I, when we go sourcing and thrifting, we have like a little route that we take. So it's like a route that we're going and we know exactly where we're going to go next. We're not wasting a lot of time trying to drive around in random places.
Yeah, I love that. Now that you mentioned it, I actually always start from the furthest away point from my house. So then I'm working back towards home and I have the shortest drive at the end of the day when I'm tired, maybe a little frustrated if I haven't had a great day outsourcing. So I try to start at the furthest point away and work my way back home. And that always makes it a lot easier too. So now it's time for another segment of what is in our reseller toolbox. This week, we are talking about the website. It's called checkaflip.com. Again, that's checkaflip.com. You can access this website on your mobile phone. You want to be pretty specific when you type into the search what items you're looking up. It's just kind of like doing sold comps, but this website is going to give you an average of these sold items. So whether it's sold on eBay, StockX, Goat, Poshmark, Mercari, whatever the site was that it sold on, it's going to give you the average of those sold prices. Let's say you're looking up a women's American Eagle graphic t-shirt that seem to be pretty popular right now. You're going to want to type in, American Eagle graphic t-shirt, size large, women's, maybe if it's like
maybe the print or something a little bit more specific that might be in a title.
Yeah, like the graphic, whatever the band might be, that kind of thing. So you're going to want to type in a little, some specifics there so it can bring up an accurate average for you. Then it's going to take about 60 seconds for it to generate that average because it's pulling from all over the internet. And, maybe it'll come up with $25. Let's say it comes up with $25. So that's the median that it's sold for. So some have sold for more, some have sold for less. So knowing what it has sold for on average across all those platforms, that'll give you an idea of what you can price yours at based on the platform you're going to be selling it on. Whether it's Poshmark and they're going to take a 20% fee, maybe you want to price it a little bit higher. Maybe it's eBay and you're running, maybe your store always is running a 25% off sale. Maybe you always have this sale running. So you want to price it knowing that you're going to send offers, knowing that you're having a sale all the time in your eBay store, or maybe you're just going to run one coming up soon, and knowing what fees are going to be taken out on whatever specific platform you're selling it on.
The check and flip is really good for those of us who are selling on multiple platforms because there's sometimes a lot of items that you don't know once you start reselling more and you're on the multiple platforms, which platform is right for that particular item. So I think that's a really good tool. And I'm glad that you shared it with me because I had never heard of it. All right. So another thing to consider when you are first starting to resell is creating a designated area for photographing and listing your items. Now, preferably, depending on the space that you have, wherever you're going to be doing this, you want to try to create something that you don't have to take down anymore. For us, I have a huge outbuilding. It's 1,200 square feet. I have the space to be able to set up something. So I use 2 folding tables, a white vinyl sheet that I put down, and then I have 2 different ring lights that I use. So that's a setup, and it's just really nice to have that area. It's away from the house. I can go in there and, just start listing items. I don't have to worry about setting it up, but really think about where in your house do you get really good light. That can sometimes be an issue, especially when you're listing items. Make sure the item looks like it should look. I know we just had a sale the other day over the weekend, and the shoes, when I pulled them, did not look like the shoes in the pictures. And I was like, who photographed these? I'm going to blame Casey. No, I probably photographed them because I do a majority of our stuff, but the lighting was awful. So I actually took better pictures, sent it to the buyer, and just let them know they're not going to look like the photo. And they were still okay with purchasing them. They would have preferred the lighter color, but I just know that that's something I really need to be aware of when I'm photographing, is that the lighting is really good.
Definitely. And going back to having a designated area for listing as well, somewhere that, you're not going to get distracted by other things that are going on. So usually, when we first moved into this house, I sat right here where I'm sitting now and I listed from this spot, but I've got, the kitchen to my left, the living room to my right. And then, there's all kinds of other things upstairs and whatnot, but it's very distracting. This is like the central location of the house. Anytime someone comes in or out, or I can hear something outside, the mailman comes, the UPS guy comes. Oh, what got delivered from Amazon today? It's not conducive to a good productive environment. So I just kind of switched it up a little bit, and I have a little office set up now upstairs. So I go up there, I can close the door, turn the AC on, a little music, and it's nice. It's nice. It's quiet, and I can focus without knowing what's going on around me. me, which is, it helps me stay productive. That's for sure. In conjunction with having a designated area for photographing and listing, we highly recommend that you find a good place to store your items, whether that's going to be in boxes, bins, a shelving unit, hangers, in a separate closet, something of that nature. So you can keep it all separate from all the other clothing or items in your home. Keep an inventory system so that you aren't losing track of these items once they're listed. Don't have to fumble around looking for them or potentially cancel orders once they sell. We've all been there. All resellers have had this issue at one point.
Oh, yeah.
No, no one wants to admit it, but we've all been there. It's the most frustrating thing to have a great weekend, make these huge sales, and you go on Monday to try to find your stuff to ship them up and pack them up, and you can't find like that one last item. It is so frustrating. So start doing it the right way from the beginning. I did not. I'm sure, Liz, you probably didn't either.
No, I didn't. And it was a mess. I mean, I would be going through 5-6 different bins. Like, where is that item at? I remember photographing it. I remember putting it away. But now, see, what's nice about eBay is they have a custom SKU line. We have like a whole code, which, I mean, in a future episode, we'll go over like best ways to organize your inventory. But you can put in a special SKU and I know exactly where the item is, except we sold a sewing machine the other day and we still have not found it. I had to cancel the order.
Oh, no.
A sewing machine. Like, the only thing I can think of is it accidentally got donated to Goodwill when we had a bunch of free inventory from this woman's house. That's the only thing I can think of. Being organized, I mean, you're going to love it if you start right away. I always recommend either a box or a bin, have like a number on it. So maybe it's in box number 1. It's easy to find and you just know exactly where it is. We use shelving in our outbuilding. You know, we have that space. So I think I just did box number 46. So we've got 46 different boxes out there, but it's just very handy. And it's especially important if you're going to be reselling with other people. Casey and I, husband and wife resell team. If he goes to look for something, he's going to need to notice where to find it. And same with me. So I think the inventory system is really beneficial for us because even if he listed it, I'll know exactly where to find it.
Absolutely. When I started reselling, I was working full time in the car business and I would try to pack up my orders first thing in the morning before I was running out the door to drive to go to work. And so many times I couldn't find something. I started out with just one little plastic bin. So where the heck else could it have been? And that quickly grew to, 2, 3, 4, 5 plastic bins. And then things ended up in the closet. It was a nightmare. It made me late for work a couple times. And I'm like, this has got to stop. This is just craziness. So it's going to save you a lot of time and a lot of frustration. And at the end of the day, no one wants to spend their time digging through their inventory, listed, unlisted inventory, trying to find something that they sold. So just please take our advice and just do it the right way from the start. You will be so glad that you did.
Yes, you will. All right. So the next thing you want to make sure that you're doing when you first start reselling would be to have a shipping prep area. When you are shipping out items, you're going to need a spot where you can box something up. You're going to have a scale so you can weigh things. You're going to want your tape or, maybe you have a box resizer that you want to resize a box. I mean, those are some of the supplies that you're definitely going to need, but definitely a designated shipping area. We have a huge table that we use, and that's just where we keep everything. So then when it's time to go ship something out, I have all the supplies that I need on the table, and it's big enough to where not having to do it like on the kitchen counter or someplace like that. So that's just another piece of advice, and it would be really good to start off right off the bat and have that designated area.
Absolutely. And going along with that, you're going to want to buy the supplies that you're going to need for listing and shipping, whether that is, some poly mailers. If you're going to start on eBay, if you're starting on Amazon, you're going to need those and some clear suffocation poly bags that you can put items into. Maybe you need extra boxes. If you can't, like we said in the last episode, get those boxes from a free source, like your family, your friends, the Amazon boxes that you saved up or parts department or whatnot, you're going to need to, go find some boxes, different size boxes that are going to fit those items. So it's going to be more cost effective for you to ship those items in the properly sized box as well.
The other day, I was organizing the garage and our neighbor threw over 3 Amazon boxes. And I was like, thanks, Judy. She knows that we resell. And so it's something that's nice. And, a lot of the Amazon boxes are they're a good size to put shoes in or random items. So I definitely have to think about that when you're first starting to resell. It's a cost nobody really wants to have to pay for tape, but you're going to need tape to tape up boxes. It's just something that you're going to have, whether you like it or not.
Definitely. And going back to the listing supplies that you might need, depending on where you're listing from, the items that you're going to be listing, you might want to list on a laptop versus a phone or a desktop, finding out where you're going to list the best and the easiest for whatever platform you decided on. You might need a white background or just a solid background for that matter. We'll go into this. This is like a whole nother episode, but Google loves that white solid background. It doesn't necessarily make your items, stand out branding wise if, you have your mannequin and all this stuff. But anyways, they love the white solid background. So being able to use a white solid background is definitely going to help. And then there's things like the app called Photo Room. We could do a whole podcast on that too. It removes, you have to pay for the upgrade now for the watermark not to be all over the picture, but it is so worth it. You can batch edit items. I think it's like 50 at a time or something like that. So 50 photos at a time, and it's going to remove the background from those items and leave you with a nice, crisp, clear image of your product. And it's been a lifesaver for me for sure. So things like that are definitely going to help you when you're listing as well.
The final thing that we would recommend if you are first starting to resell would be educate yourself on what to buy and sell by watching YouTube videos or reading blog posts. I know it can be so overwhelming when you first start reselling. Hopefully this podcast will be very helpful for those that are listening that are just starting. Best thing you can do is keep investing in yourself by learning. And I know even after how many years of reselling, I still watch other reseller videos and I'm constantly learning myself. I know I mentioned earlier in this episode that eBay has the Seller University. So watching those videos, Amazon as well, they've got a bunch of tutorials. We sell on Walmart too, and Walmart has a lot of videos, but just constantly reinvesting in yourself by learning, trying to figure out what sells best for you and what you should buy, where you should buy it at, and just really learning from other resellers is the best way to do it.
Definitely. I'll give you one of my favorite hacks/tips that I learned when I started reselling clothing was to use the platform that you're selling on to do your research. For instance, let's say you're going to be selling clothing on eBay. That's the platform you're starting out on. You can type in, let's say you're focused on shoes this week, women's ankle boots, women's winter ankle boots, or calf boots or motorcycle boots, whatever boots. And it's going to come up not only with how you should be typing out your title when you search in that search bar, enter the search, it's going to show all the items that are listed. And then you go to sold items, then you can filter by the highest amount that the items have sold for. So high to low, and it's going to bring up all those brands and all those boots that have sold for the most amount of money. So you can kind of do brand research that way and style research that way to see who's buying what and for what amount of money. So that's my favorite way to learn about new brands. All right, guys, that's a wrap on today's episode. Thank you so much for listening to the Paycheck to Daycheck Reselling Podcast.
Anything we mentioned in this episode will be linked down below in the show notes or description down below.
Be sure to share this episode with anyone you think it will help and follow us on social media at P2D Podcast.
Thanks again for listening. Keep working towards that Daycheck.